If you're an independent CFI or you're thinking about becoming an independent CFI, you might be wondering how you even run this type of business. When you're working for a school, they handle everything for you, like the back end, the finding the clients, invoicing clients, vetting people to make sure that they qualify for flight training. The school really will manage so much of the process of being a CFI that independent CFIs are going to have to learn how to manage these things on their own. If you're new to freelancing and you've never owned your own business, a lot of this might be completely foreign to you. So to save you a few steps when you're just getting started, I thought I'd outline all of the tools that I use in my business. I'm also going to introduce to you just a simple setup of 4 basic tools you can use that are going to cover all your bases as an independent CFI to make sure you stay organized and completely on top of all the documents, the lesson plans, everything that comes with having a student and being an independent CFI. Before I get into all of these different apps and things that I recommend, I just want to let you know that none of this is sponsored by any of the brands. These are all things that I genuinely use, but I will provide any affiliate codes that I have that may offer you a discount. Just know that I get a little kickback if you use any of those codes. First, let's start with the simple setup. These are just your absolute basics. You'll want to start here if you've never run any kind of independent freelance business before and you just need the basics. The first thing you're going to need is some kind of document storage. So I use GoodNotes. I've talked about GoodNotes in my top 8 apps that I recommend. I recommend it for students, but I also recommend it for CFIs. The reason being you can keep really detailed notes that are searchable, but also handwritten if you're using a tablet. The way I like to use GoodNotes is to organize my student files and documents. As an independent CFI, you have to track all the endorsements that you give out and all of the students that you provide training to. So within GoodNotes, every time I take on a new student, I create a file with their name on it. In that file is where I put any endorsement I give them, any kind of paperwork related to them as a student. It's where I put a copy of their passport so that I can verify I've done their TSA check. It keeps everything really streamlined and really I can find what I need very quickly. I also use GoodNotes to house my CFI binder and all my lesson plans, my syllabus, everything that I need to instruct so that it's searchable. I can find it really quickly. I can also write handwritten notes in the margins with my tablet and my Apple Pencil. And then those notes also become searchable, which is really cool. The second thing you'll need is a CRM or a client relationship management tool. I use a software called Dubsado. It houses all of my client information. It keeps track of invoices, contracts, documents. On the more advanced versions of Dubsado, you can also set up automated workflows. So say you had someone fill out the contact form on your website and the contact form is developed in Dubsado, you could connect that form to a workflow inside of your CRM so that when someone fills out that form, it automatically triggers next steps. For example, I had Dubsado set up so that when someone would fill out my contact form, it would automatically trigger a series of email responses and it would give them a proposal. They could go ahead and sign on the dotted line, pick their photography package, and check out right there without me even having to interact with them. Or if they selected that they wanted more information first on the form, then it would put the email through directly to me and we could schedule a time to chat and meet up and talk about their questions. On the very basic level though, Dubsado is a place where you can send invoices and contracts. You're going to want to have a place that you can do both of those things as an independent CFI so that you can not only look professional, but make it an easy experience for your customers to pay you and have a signed agreement between the two of you that you both understand what's going to happen in this training interaction. A lot of independent CFIs I think are going without contracts, and contracts are so important, not just from a liability standpoint, but also just as a way to serve and protect both you and your client from any kind of miscommunication or misunderstanding. The third tool you should have is a way for clients to schedule you. A really easy way to do this is with a free tool like Calendly, or even Notion Calendar has a free scheduling tool as of very recently. If you do sign up for a Dubsado and go with their more advanced plan, there's a scheduler included in that as well. This may get a little complicated depending on the aircraft you'll be using for training. If it's a personal aircraft that you own, then it'll be easy to schedule, but in other cases it might be a little harder to work this out between your availability, the student's availability, and the rental company's availability or the aircraft, wherever you're getting the aircraft from. But where Calendly or Dubsado Scheduler or Notion Scheduler can all come in handy is with online ground lessons. So this brings me to my fourth tool, and that's a way to meet virtually with your students. I like Zoom personally, a lot of people do, but there are plenty to choose from if there's another one you prefer. This is really only necessary if you're going to be teaching online in any capacity. I have spent a lot of time in the past teaching online ground lessons, both one-on-one and in a group setting. It's a great way to make a little extra money, and it's not reliant on weather or aircraft availability, so I highly recommend it if you can do that. You can also use online sessions as a way to schedule mock oral exams and other types of test prep events. So that right there is your simple setup: document storage, invoicing and contracts, scheduling, and video conferencing. Aside from that, the rest of this is a little above and beyond, a little extra, so you may or may not need these, but I thought I'd mention other tools I use in case you're a little extra like me. As an independent CFI, you're going to want to be very active on social media or marketing yourself in some way. That might look like social media presence, that might look like putting flyers around your airport, but either way, having a design tool is going to come in handy at some point as a freelance CFI. I recommend Canva. I've been on their pro plan for several years. I use it every single week, and it is just an amazing tool. It gets better all the time. I highly recommend it. You need no design experience to use Canva. They have an enormous library of templates that you can start from if you have literally zero design brain at all. You can just use a template and replace the information with your own. This has come in handy for social media graphics, my YouTube thumbnails, my business cards, flyers for events. Pretty much anything you can think of, you can do in Canva. I've even done t-shirts in Canva. You can order directly inside of Canva as well, which I really like, and their prices are really reasonable. So when I created my business cards there, for example, I was able to just click a button and say, print 50 of these, send them to my house. So instead of having to upload the design to another site, you can just do everything in-house, and it's super easy. For project management, I use a tool called Notion. I mentioned it with the calendar. There's a Notion calendar, but there's also just an app called Notion. What I like about Notion is that it's more for list making and spreadsheets and tracking information. I use it to plan my social media content. There are calendar views. I use it to track my goals. There's a lot of different purposes for Notion. So I'd say this is for the CFI who's managing maybe like things on a larger scale. If you have more than a handful of students and now you're branching out onto social media and you're marketing yourself and you're attending events and you're meeting new people and networking with brands, then Notion is something that's going to help you organize all of that and just manage your day-to-day projects and keep everything in one place. Next up is an email marketing tool called Flowdesk. Now, this is again for the more advanced freelancer or CFI, someone who is serious about running a business and not just clocking in the hours and heading out as soon as they're done. This is when you're building something long-term and you want to keep contact with people. Flowdesk is another way that I manage my contacts, but this is specifically how I hand out my freebies, how I get people into my world in another way that's off social media. I'm kind of inviting them into my own space to keep contact with me more on a long-term basis. On social media, you can just lose people, so this is a better way to keep long-term contact with people. You can set up a one-time automation where when someone signs up for your newsletter or signs up for your email list, then they're put through a series of emails that you can schedule out for whatever time you want. I have a short automation that goes out, for example, when someone signs up, they'll get one email, a couple of days later they'll get a second email, and from there they're just dumped into my newsletter list. And then when I send out my monthly newsletters, they receive that as well. If you plan to launch any products in the future, any guides, templates, courses, digital downloads, or even merch, physical products, having an email list is a huge, huge way to be able to connect with people that love what you do, that have already raised their hand and said, yes, I want to hear more from you, and show them what you're working on. All right, so that's all the creative, the client side, the managing projects aspects. Now I'm gonna shift gears a little bit and talk to you about the 3 things that I use to manage my finances as a freelancer. I didn't mention this in the basic setup because there are so many ways to structure a business, and you may just be taking in money to your personal bank account and paying taxes as a freelancer. I'm just talking about US based business structures here. I don't really have any insight personally into other countries' business structures, so keep that in mind. But if you're a more advanced freelancer who wants to set up a professional business structure and kind of have separation between yourself and your business, then this part is for you. The way I've structured my business personally is as an LLC with an S Corp election. I'm not going to get into what all that means, but if you know, you know. I just want to tell you so that you have some context for why I do the things that I do. So I use a software called Wave to manage my books. Wave is completely free on the basic level, and at the free level, it does everything that I need. So I'm able to connect my business bank account and my business credit card to Wave. It automatically pulls the transactions and I can categorize them, and that's how I'm tracking my expenses and my income every single month. Then I have my checking account. I run it through an online bank called Bluevine, and Bluevine is only for businesses. So that's why I mentioned my personal business structure, just to give you some better context, because to set up an account with Bluevine, you have to have an EIN, which is an employer identification number. It's like your business's social security number. Without an EIN, you can't have a Bluevine checking account. I'm so sorry. But if you do become an LLC, you can have this type of account. Now, I'm not here to give you business advice or financial advice or anything like that. I'm just telling you what I personally do. As a business owner, as a freelancer, I really like to have my business finances separate from my personal finances. It just gives me this space away from, if anything were to go wrong in my business, then there is a padding, there's a separation between my business and my personal life and finances. It's also just so much more clear for tax season. It's so much easier to see what's there and what's not, and not have to categorize my personal expenses as well as my business expenses. Now I just know that everything that's going through this Bluevine checking account is relevant to my business. So any money I make from clients goes directly into that account, and then I pay myself from there. But that way I'm able to track how much I'm paying myself, when I paid myself, what my expenses were, all of that really easily. And my last and final tool is called Gusto. This is really above and beyond. You don't need this if you're just a regular LLC or a sole proprietorship. But if you're an S Corp, you do need to have a way to pay yourself a payroll, and to avoid the headache of the documentation around that and the tax structures and everything, I use Gusto so that my salary is just auto paid from them to me. It comes out of my account every month, but they handle all of the documents and paperwork on their end so that I know it's being done correctly. And it's also just setting up this automation with all of the taxes already done the way that they're supposed to be done. So it's just another thing that I don't have to think about. And I don't know if Bluevine is still doing this, but I did actually get my first 6 months of Gusto for free because I was a Bluevine customer. So if you do sign up for business checking account with Bluevine, check to see if you can get that Gusto offer too. Okay, I have more things that I use, but honestly, these are the most important ones. This is like the core of how I run my business. Let me know what you think. And if you're an independent CFI running your own business and you're using something that's not on this list, I would love to know what it is and see what you're using, what you like about it, and if you would recommend it to other independent CFIs. There's really not a lot of us out there, so I feel like we have to support each other however we can. As always, thank you for watching. I put out new videos every single week to help you with your flight training and beyond. Be sure to share this with someone you think would enjoy it, like, subscribe, all the things. I'll see you in the next one.